Everyone laughed at her defense. Seconds later, her words revealed a truth so classified, it silenced even the judge. The Federal Military Tribunal in Arlington was not supposed to feel like a theater, but that morning it did. Reporters filled the benches, pens poised. Junior officers leaned forward in their seats, eager for scandal, and behind the bar, 3 stern-faced intelligence observers sat with an unsettling stillness, their eyes betraying nothing. At the defense table sat Lieutenant Commander Serena Kael. She was 38, her uniform flawless, medals displayed in perfect order. Her expression, however, was unreadable. Some saw defiance, others saw exhaustion. Only a few recognized the discipline of a soldier who had trained herself to reveal nothing, because even the smallest twitch could betray what she was sworn to protect. The prosecutor, Colonel Harlan Drescher, thrived on spectacle. He paced deliberately across the polished floor, his shoes echoing with each step. "This case is simple," he declared, holding a file above his head. "The accused claims to have served in units that do not exist. She has inserted herself into missions with no record. She has decorated herself with honors that cannot be verified." In plain words, he slapped the file onto the podium. "This woman is a fraud." Laughter broke out in the gallery. Muted chuckles at first, then bolder ones, as if the room itself had permission to scorn her. The judge, a heavy-set man named Blake, struck his gavel. Order. But his eyes revealed something else: irritation. He had heard whispers about this case for weeks, and in his mind this officer had wasted the court's time with fantasies. Serena remained perfectly still. She did not blink. She had endured interrogations in basements where the lights never turned off, survived ambushes where silence meant survival. But here, under the gaze of her peers, the weight of mockery pressed heavier than bullets. Colonel Drescher smirked and turned toward her. "Tell us again, Commander. Entertain us with your stories. Tell us about Operation Nightfall. Tell us about the mission that never happened." The gallery chuckled again. A journalist scribbled, "Commander invents missions, faces court." Her attorney, Captain Riva Torres, rose sharply. "Objection. The prosecution knows that not all missions are publicly accessible." Judge Blake cut her off. "Captain Torres, we have reviewed the classified indexes. Nothing exists under the titles your client claims. The court will not indulge imaginary records." The laughter swelled. Drescher leaned forward, eyes glinting. "So, Commander, what's next? Will you tell us you fought ghosts? That you saw enemies no one else could?" For the first time all day, Serena moved. Slowly, deliberately, she leaned toward the microphone. The room quieted, curious to hear what excuse she might invent. Her voice was calm, controlled, almost conversational. "Spectre echo." The words landed like a detonation. For a heartbeat, silence. Then something shifted. Drescher froze mid-step. The smirk slid from his face. His jaw tightened, as though the air had suddenly grown heavier. The judge's hand, mid-slam with the gavel, hesitated in the air. His eyes narrowed, not in confusion, but in recognition. From the back of the room, one of the intelligence observers, a gray-haired man with a scar across his cheek, stiffened visibly, his pen stopping mid-note. Another leaned forward, whispering something urgent to his colleague. Serena's gaze swept across the courtroom. "You wanted proof? That's your proof. If you don't know what it means, then you are not cleared to sit in judgment of me." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Journalists looked at each other, confused. Most had no idea what the phrase meant, but those who did, their faces drained of color. Colonel Drescher stumbled. That phrase, you've heard it before," Serena said softly, almost kindly, as if addressing a frightened child. "Haven't you, Colonel?" His lips parted, but no sound came out. His eyes betrayed fear, and something else, guilt. The judge slammed the gavel again, this time with less force. "Commander Kael, you will explain yourself immediately. What is Spectre Echo?" She tilted her head, a faint, bitter smile flickering. "Ask your classified vault in sub-level 4. Ask why the words aren't supposed to exist in this room. Ask why you recognize them, Judge Blake." Gasps erupted. Reporters whispered frantically. Some tried to stand to shout questions, only to be ordered back into silence. Drescher's voice cracked as he tried to regain control. "Your Honor, this is a trick, a fabrication." "Then why are your hands shaking?" Serena asked. The colonel looked down. His knuckles were white against the podium. Captain Torres seized the moment. Your Honor, the prosecution mocked Commander Kael as a liar. Yet at the mere mention of 2 words, this entire room fell silent. If those words mean nothing, then why do so many here look terrified? The judge's lips pressed into a thin line. He shifted in his chair but said nothing. Serena leaned back, folding her hands neatly. Her eyes were steady, her voice low. You accused me of fraud. Now the question is not whether I lied. The question is who in this room knew I would never dare speak those words unless I was telling the truth. The silence stretched, too long, too heavy. Even those who had mocked her now felt the unease creeping into their bones. Somewhere in the gallery, a young officer whispered to his seatmate, "What specter echo?" His friend shook his head violently, eyes wide. "Don't ask. Don't even say it." The judge banged the gavel again. "Enough. This court will recess for 1 hour." His voice lacked its former authority, but no one missed the way he avoided Serena's eyes. The recess was meant to calm the courtroom. Instead, it only deepened the tension. In the corridors of the tribunal, whispers flowed like an underground current. Officers clustered in small groups, their voices hushed. Journalists tried to press the guards for details, but every inquiry was met with the same cold answer: no comment. Inside a secluded chamber, Colonel Drescher paced like a caged animal. His confidence had evaporated, sweat glistened at his temples. "You heard her, Judge Blake. She uttered a phrase she should not even know." "If that gets out," Blake raised a hand sharply. "Careful, Colonel, you're already speaking too freely." His voice was low, but the edge in it was unmistakable. One of the intelligence observers entered the chamber without knocking. His badge was plain, his presence commanding. "You will steer this trial away from that phrase. If necessary, you will find her guilty on unrelated grounds." Drescher blinked. "But," the man leaned forward, his whisper like a blade, "Spectre Echo never existed. Do you understand?" The colonel swallowed hard and nodded. Back in the holding room, Serena sat alone. The guards pretended not to look at her, but their unease betrayed them. She had spoken 2 words, and it had rattled the entire hierarchy above them. For the first time in months, she allowed herself a private smile. Not triumph, survival. She had cracked their armor. When the court reconvened, the atmosphere was different. The gallery that had once laughed now sat stiff and silent. The air was heavy, as though the walls themselves carried classified weight. Judge Blake cleared his throat. "We will continue. Colonel Drescher, proceed." But Drescher's voice trembled. He pointed at Serena with forced bravado. "Commander Kael, your theatrics cannot distract this court. You have provided no documents, no witnesses, only a word, a meaningless word." Serena's gaze locked on him, calm, patient, deadly. "Then why did it drain the color from your face, Colonel?" Gasps rippled. Drescher's lips quivered, but no words came. Captain Torres pounced. "Your Honor, if the prosecution insists that my client is a fraud, then let us call a witness from strategic reconnaissance. Let them testify under oath whether Spectre Echo was meaningless." The judge's gavel slammed. "Denied. That subject is not relevant to these proceedings." "Not relevant?" Torres's voice rose. "The entire charge against my client hinges on whether her record is real. And in the moment she revealed a detail only a handful of people in this country could possibly know, this court tried to bury it. Why?" The gallery erupted in murmurs. Reporters scribbled furiously. Even those who didn't know the meaning of the phrase sensed they had just glimpsed the edge of a hidden abyss. Blake's face darkened. "One more outburst, Captain, and you will be held in contempt." Serena leaned forward, her voice steady. "They don't want to call witnesses, Captain, because they know what would happen. Someone would have to admit that the mission existed, and if it existed—" She let the words trail off, letting the silence complete the thought. "Zygarnik." The court leaned in, craving the answer she refused to finish. Drescher slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. You're manipulating the court with innuendo." Serena tilted her head, studying him. "Colonel, what happened to your brother in Tallinn?" The color drained from his face. The room froze. "How? How do you know about that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned back, her silence louder than any accusation. The colonel's composure collapsed, his body trembling. The judge banged the gavel again, desperate to regain control. "This court will ignore irrelevant insinuations. Commander Kael, you are here to answer for fraudulent service claims, not—" Serena interrupted, her voice cold. "Fraud. Fraud is pretending missions never happened so you can bury the mistakes. Fraud is branding those who served in the shadows as liars because acknowledging them would expose your failures. Fraud is. She stopped, her words hanging like a guillotine over the court. The gallery leaned forward, hungry. She let the silence gnaw at them. Finally, she whispered, "Fraud is you, Your Honor." The room erupted. Shouts, gasps. The gavel pounded again and again, but Blake's face was pale, his mask of authority shattered. Torres stepped in, her voice rising above the chaos. "This court is not trying my client. This court is trying to erase her." Security guards moved toward the bench, whispering urgently to the judge. One of the intelligence observers slipped him a sealed envelope. He opened it, his hands trembling. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a red stamp. "Eyes only." His face drained as he read. Then he set the paper down and spoke, his voice hollow. "This tribunal will recess indefinitely." The gallery exploded into chaos. Reporters shouted for answers. Officers exchanged fearful glances, and Serena Kael simply stood, smoothed her uniform, and looked directly at the judge. "You asked if I was a fraud," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "But what you really asked was whether you could silence me. Now you know the answer." She turned and walked out, guards parting instinctively. No one dared to stop her. As she reached the corridor, Captain Torres caught up, whispering urgently, "What happens now? They'll bury this deeper than ever." Serena paused, her eyes scanning the hallway lined with nervous officers. "Good, let them bury it. Because the deeper they bury the truth, the more dangerous it becomes when it resurfaces." Torres frowned. "And will it resurface?" Serena's lips curved into a faint smile. "It already has." Outside, the press swarmed, cameras flashing, questions shouted, but Serena said nothing. She simply walked through the storm, a silent figure carrying secrets too heavy for headlines. Behind her, in the courtroom now abandoned, the envelope with "eyes only" still sat on the judge's desk. Inside, beneath the official memo, was a second sheet Serena had planted long before the trial began. 3 words written in her own hand: "Spectre Echo lives."